Just when you think MAGA couldn't possibly get any more despicable, Donald Trump and Fox propagandist Jesse Waters appeared to have engaged in jury intimidation when Waters used his primetime show to effectively dox one of the jurors in Trump's Manhattan trial, causing her to request to the judge that she be taken off the trial. They are attempting to rig the trial in Trump's favor. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bell before you go. I'd greatly appreciate it. All right, friends, we have a couple of clips to look at in this video, 3 of them. Jesse Waters and Donald Trump are, pulling no punches. They are, in Trump's case, potentially violating a court-imposed gag order. And in the case of Jesse Waters, he's just flagrantly acting on Trump's behalf to try to intimidate jurors because they suspect that Donald Trump will be found guilty, even though the trial is in its preliminary stages. Right now, they're in the process trying to select jurors. We're going to play the first clip, which is 30 seconds from Jesse Waters' primetime show. And again, note just the absurdity of what he's trying to do, and then the reason that he is so offended by this particular juror.
Number 2, a nurse from the Upper East Side with a master's degree. She's not married, has no kids, and lives with her fiance who works in finance. She gets her news from the New York Times, Google, and CNN. She said 2 things that really stuck out. One, quote, "I don't really have an opinion of Trump," and, quote, "No one is above the law." I'm not so sure about juror number 2.
So Jesse Waters says he's not so sure about juror number 2 because she says, quote, "No one is above the law," which is really strange coming from a so-called principled conservative who believes in law and order. That should be a sentiment that everybody gets behind. But in this case, what Jesse Waters interprets that to mean is nobody being above the law means that Donald Trump is not above the law, which means that if there's evidence to this juror that Donald Trump has violated the law, she would vote to convict him. That's what he's interpreting. And Donald Trump can't be held accountable to the law in Jesse Waters' mind because Jesse Waters is part of a cult. Again, law and order and being subject to the laws of the land, that's for people in blue states, blue cities, liberals, progressives. The law is to be imposed on us by conservatives and Republicans who can then just do whatever the hell they want. And just you imagine Hunter Biden right now is being indicted by a special counsel, right? He's being prosecuted. Imagine this is jury selection for Hunter Biden's trial. And imagine a juror said that nobody is above the law. Would Jesse Waters have a problem with that? No, of course not. But that's because it's Hunter Biden, right? And he would want that. But when it comes to Donald Trump, it's a different set of rules. Imagine if someone on MSNBC, an MSNBC commentator said, this juror in the Hunter Biden trial said that nobody is above the law. I'm not so sure about that person. Imagine that happens. What would Jesse Waters say in response? Jesse Waters would be rightly furious and would be making fun of that person because it's such an anodyne statement. But that's how timid Jesse Waters is at the notion that Donald Trump be held accountable to the law and to the justice system of the United States. Then Donald Trump ran with this. As Ryan Goodman pointed out, Trump is under a gag order, and part of the judge's rules say that Trump is forbidden from making or directing others to make public statements about any prospective juror or any juror in this criminal proceeding. And then, of course, Donald Trump regurgitated things Jesse Waters had to say on his Fox propaganda show. They are now catching undercover liberal activists lying to the judge in order to get on the Trump jury, end quote. And he attributes it to Jesse Waters. Now, in response to this, the particular juror in question, juror number 2, asked to be taken off the case. He concluded by saying, "I'm not so sure about juror number 2." And this was after broadcasting extensive biographical details about her neighborhood, occupation, education, marital and family status, and what industry her own fiance works in. That juror has now asked to be excused, saying people asked her if she was the juror in question. That's incredibly dangerous, especially when you're going up against somebody as cultish as Donald Trump and the MAGA cult, right? For whom we've seen in poll after poll after poll, they are disproportionately inclined towards violence. Now, in response to this is what legal commentator, I think it's Barb McQuaid, this is what she had to say about this development.
Beyond Donald Trump complaining unjustly about how the legal process works, Fox News is now making up, fabricating things about potential jurors, and Donald Trump is taking these fabrications and now pushing them out and spreading them. How are we not right back in gag order territory? Because that's going to pollute the American people and potential jurors out there. All these things they're saying, they're not true.
Absolutely. One of the posts that Donald Trump made today was suggesting that he said liberals are lying to try to sneak their way onto the jury just so that they can convict him. The gag order, I think, covers this. I think that if I were working with Alvin Bragg tomorrow morning when I get back to court, I would be arguing that this is conduct that is covered by the gag order. It included statements directed at jurors or potential jurors. And so I think when you make disparaging comments about people who are in that jury pool, that is covered by the gag order for the reasons you say, Stephanie. I mean, one is preserving the integrity of the process, protecting public confidence in the process, but also protecting the jurors themselves. If people get wind of who they are and believe they've said things that are false to harm Donald Trump, those people could themselves find themselves harassed.
100%. We've seen in the past in previous legal situations with Donald Trump where people, judges, secretaries and clerks of those judges, people have been targeted with death threats by Trump supporters because of stuff like this. But I'll also point out, this isn't the first time Jesse Waters has, seemingly teamed up with other right-wing weirdos to try to engage in shenanigans in a way which would undermine the credibility of this particular trial. We talked about in a previous video a few days ago, MAGA lawyer Clay Travis. This is a right-wing commentator and an attorney, an actual attorney, even though he doesn't practice anymore, engaging in what appeared to be jury tampering, right? So I want to play this clip in which he and Jesse Waters kind of smugly went back and forth, again, openly, flagrantly, trying to put their thumb on the scale in terms of the scales of justice in favor of Donald Trump.
Well, Clay Travis lit up the left today. All it took was one tweet. Says, if you're a Trump supporter in New York City who's a part of the jury pool, do everything you can to get seated on the jury and then refuse to convict as a matter of principle, dooming the case via hung jury. It's the most patriotic thing you could possibly do. And Clay joins us now. Clay, you aren't suggesting that there's a stealth juror that maybe is dishonest during jury selection and totally boots this trial on purpose. Would you be suggesting something like that?
Jesse, you know me. There are few people on the planet with higher standards of just decorum. And as you can well see by the way I am dressed, few people who are just more beloved in the entire legal profession than me. So, Jesse, of course I would say, legally, I want everyone to behave in the absolute perfect fashion. But based on the indictment that we have seen, that you have read, that we have all been talking about for a year now, this is a bogus case.
But again, the trial hasn't started yet. So jurors are obligated, based on their oath to the court, is evaluate the evidence. If the evidence exonerates Trump, then so be it. He should be found not guilty. But Clay Travis isn't asking that. He's saying jurors, as they're being selected prior to the examination of evidence, that they should commit themselves to voting to not convict Trump, regardless of what the evidence says. That is jury tampering. And Jesse Waters is, again, like wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You're not suggesting, right? Right? And Clay Travis is doing the same thing. No, of course not. That would be wrong. Folks, if people on the left and progressive commentators were doing this for, again, a Hunter Biden trial or the trial potentially in the future of President Biden or Barack Obama or whatever it is, Secretary Hillary Clinton, all of the trials that right-wingers fantasize about, they would be apoplectic. They'd be furious. And rightly so, I would add. Nobody should be doing this anywhere. But it's exclusively the right doing stuff like this because at the end of the day, Jesse Waters, Donald Trump, Clay Travis, they don't care about law and order. They don't care about laws. They don't care about the Constitution. They're in a cult. And the cult leader, Donald Trump, in the inner circle, which they believe includes them, they're supposed to be above the law. The law is for lesser people. The law is for people like us, again, liberals, progressives, Democrats, people in blue cities and blue states. If you're a Republican, if you're a MAGA Republican in particular, you're above the law and you can engage in this sort of shenaniganry with impunity as far as they're concerned. So it's super gross. They should be mocked endlessly for it. Hopefully there'll be legal consequences as a result of this as well. And any time that a Republican suggests that they're the party of law and order, refer to situations like this and say, no, Democrats are the party of law and order. You all are just a cult who should be made fun of. Let me know what you think in the comments.